Welcome to Truth by Billie Beene. Today's date, August 23, 2025. Time in Texas, about 3 p.m. So some of the things I'll cover today. President Trump, martial law. John Bolton, has he been leaking national security secrets to the deep state? It sure looks like it. And what's going on in space with Atlas and Apopus? And the U.S. cuts intel to some of its closest allies. Some of my sources for this will be Pastor Paul BEGLEY, Mike from Around the World, Hal Turner, Dr. Michael SALLA, InfoWars Plus. So let's get started. We're going to begin with the tropics. And we have Aaron, praise the Lord, gone. It's up around the upper northern part of the Atlantic, around Canada. Not a threat to the U.S. We have two systems we'll look at. One in the Atlantic and one down in the Caribbean. So the one in the Atlantic has a 100% chance of making that in 48 hours. 100% in 7 days. It's moving northwest at 15 miles per hour. So northwest would take it toward the U.S. We want to pray against that. This one in the Caribbean, 20% chance making up in 48 hours. 20% in 7 days. Also moving west toward the U.S. at 25 miles per hour. So yeah. This is the system we want to pay the closest attention to, I believe. So that's going on. And now we'll look at what's going on in space. We have some new information. So we have the sun, the earth, our solar system, including Mars. So we have two space objects, and before I cover that, I'll cover this from YouTube Space Weather, formerly Suspicious Observers, Ben Davidson, talking about the current pole shift we are in the past has been tied to 5 extinction level events, and that's correct. I've studied that in paleoarchaeology, paleontology, and geology, and so on. For me, I do not believe we are going to be facing an extinction level event associated with the current pole shift. But this current pole shift will impact our weather patterns, including earlier and much colder, cold periods of weather. So that's going on. And we have this. Pastor Paul BEGLEY brought out some new information from Mike from Around the World regarding Apopus. Apopus is an asteroid that the U.S. and other nations have been tracking for over 20 years, predicted to make a close or direct impact with the Earth, much as we saw in the movie Deep Impact. The latest prediction had been 2029 for this event to occur. And personally, I do not believe we're going to have a direct impact by Apopus. I don't believe that matches up what I perceive to be God's timeline. But we need to pray against it. Now, the timeline has changed 6 times, according to Mike from Around the World, from 2029 to 2025. And we saw in this past week, NASA sending out a $500 million probe to find out what's going on with Apopus. So this is new information. I believe we should have all truth on our table, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So we know what to pray for and against. So that's going on. We also have this other interstellar object called 3I Atlas. put out by NASA originally to be a comet. That's been pretty well disproven by astrophysicists around the world. So it's now believed to be not a natural space object, but possibly one under intelligent control, because we have documented now, including information by Stan Deyo, physicist, and other reliable sources, including an astrophysicist from Harvard, Avi Loeb, that Atlas 31, or 3I Atlas, we'll just call it Atlas, is exhibiting behavior to indicate it's under intelligent control because it's employing anti-gravity acceleration. Now it's being more information coming out. It also has an artificial light on it. And this is lining up with information from the Hopi prophecy. The Hopi are a Native American tribe, Hopi, H-O-P-I, who had a prophecy about a blue Kachina, a space object appearing blue, coming near the Earth, and that many events would occur on the Earth: earthquakes, volcanoes, tsunamis, floods, weather changes, and so on. And some are saying that this atlas could be the blue Kachina. It was associated by the Hopi causing earth changes for a period of purification of the earth. And I believe the people of God who are aligned with God have nothing to fear. Also associated with this, I believe that came out from Dr. Michael SALLA, but other sources have brought this out before. The blue Kachina prophecy also said it would happen in the time of a man with a red hat. And this is being interpreted to represent President Trump. We know he wears his red MAGA hats. So we'll see. And we have this. So we've had some earthquakes. So we have South America, Antarctica. We had a major earthquake in the past 24 hours near Drake's Passage between South America and Antarctica. Originally put out as an 8, downgraded by the USGS to a 7.5. But we are seeing earthquakes also in other areas of the U.S. So we're seeing, I believe, ongoing changes on the Earth associated with the current ongoing pole shift and events in space. So in the U.S., we've been seeing more earthquake swarms in Yellowstone, in the new Madrick seismic zone in this area of the East Coast, where new fault lines have been discovered. So that's going on. And we're hearing reports from people. This is now being put forth. I know Yellowstone had a 4.7 in the past 48 hours. But we are hearing reports of animals fleeing Yellowstone, like a deer, bison, and so on. And we're also hearing the Three Gorges Dam has had problems in China this week, causing many serious floods, and that Aaron also brought floods along the East Coast. We are to have a cold front next week And it's believed that our weather pattern will be changing so that we have an early fall and a cold, long winter season. So that's going on. So we see things matching up. Now we have this from Hal Turner, Beston Taylor, and other sources about President Trump. So President Trump, I believe, is taking the U.S. into a position of martial law, and he is activating more National Guard in the U.S. This will be, he's activating 1,700 National Guard to 19 states. Now that's barely 89 to each state. My perception, and they're to support ICE. My perception of these individuals being sent out to the states is not that they're so much, armed security boots on the ground, but my perception is that they are cyber security experts and aligning and supporting ICE, and I believe protecting the U.S. From both internal and external threats. So Hal Turner brought this out last night, National Guard in 19 states. No explanation is being given other than they are to support ICE. So that's going on. And the states they're being sent to and their assignment will last from August to November. Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, South Dakota, Tennessee, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, Nebraska, Nevada, New Mexico, Ohio, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, Virginia, and Wyoming. So we see that's going on. And we have this. President Trump has also floated the idea of federalizing law enforcement as he did in Washington, D.C., and the cities of Chicago and New York City. I submit this federalizing of law enforcement by the President Trump will be in cities that I believe are targets for mass destruction events. Washington, D.C., Chicago, New York City are three that have long been on a list of about 17 cities that our enemies would likely hit if they could. So that's going on. And so we have that. Now we have this. From the last refuge. So we'll cover what's going on in the intel world. We have President Trump's Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, in the last 24 hours has fired 50% of her intel group. We also have this situation with John Bolton going on. And we have this. That John Bolton's home was raided by the FBI about 7 a.m. Friday. And last I heard, it was ongoing late last night. John Bolton had been a national security advisor. I believe he served briefly in President Trump's first term and in his second term. John Bolton is recognized as a neocon, an individual who wants war, war, war. And it's believed this raid by the FBI on John Bolton's home was precipitated by information President Trump's director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe, information received by the CIA from overseas, outside the U.S., and affiliated with the nation of Qatar. And it's believed that John Bolton may have been selling classified documents and information to foreign nations. So that's going on. And we have this from Martin Armstrong. His website is armstrongeconomics.com. The Bolton neocon was raided by the FBI Friday, and it's believed that he was in possession of classified documents and that he also had been leaking classified information to the U.S. media, and that Martin Armstrong's predictive software Socrates predicts that the deep state will be gone out of the U.S. by 2032. So to remove the deep state tentacles deep inside the U.S. would mean that we change many people inside the federal government at both the federal and state level. BREITBART brings out about the Bolton investigation. It's believed that the information he was giving out posed a national security event for the U.S., a threat to the U.S. So that's going on. We also have Tulsi Gabbard in the last 24 hours firing 50% of her intel group. This raid on John Bolton's home, and also DNI Tulsi Gabbard has cut Ukraine intel to the other nations that make up the Five Eyes. The Five Eyes include the U.S., Australia, New Zealand, UK, and Canada. Tulsi Gabbard has cut intel regarding Ukraine to Canada, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia. And it's believed this could have also be associated, this cutting of intel to the other Four Eyes of nations, could be President Trump's response to his learning that the European nations plan to put 10,000 boots on the ground inside Ukraine in the near future. We know that President Trump has said there will be no U.S. boots on the ground in Ukraine, and it's believed that the U.S. foreign policy does not want Europe to send its troops also into Ukraine. That President Trump would rather be in a position of negotiating peace with Russia. So we see the EU also turning against America and President Trump. So that's going on. And we have some sources saying that the U.S. military have arrested a previous cabinet member of Obama's, James Clapper. So that's going on. And we have this from InfoWars talking about the Friday raid on John Bolton's home. And it's believed that he was leaking information to the classified information to the U.S. media. He was selling classified information to nations abroad, and his doing so posed a threat to U.S. national security. We also have this coming out that released on Friday by Tulsi Gabbard by the DOJ was information about coming from the Epstein case, and it included both written and audio information from Ghislaine Maxwell, in which she holds Epstein was not suicided and that there was no Epstein information tying President Trump to any of the Epstein locations. So that's going on. It's good to be in prayer for America, President Trump, the U.S. military, and world peace. I love you, and I'll see you soon.